In other words, you can't sweep it under the rug. You can't ignore it hoping that it'll go away. But what you've got to do like a man or like a woman or like a child or like a person is you've got to look at the threat. You've got to assess the threat, and you've got to go ahead and go after that problem and fix it as much as power lies in your hands. But then as I got to thinking about David and how he was being very decisive, I realized that very few people are that strong in their decisiveness. So I decided that what I would do is I would look at personalities and just try to see how is it that we typically deal with our problems. And when we look at our problems and how we typically deal with them, there's several things that show up. You will find out that on this next slide that we're going to show you that there are one of four reasons or maybe two different ways at the best that you find that you actually deal with your problems. And all the ways that I'm going to show you are actually valid ways of dealing with them. But unless you're doing like David, you're working in what's known as your adaptive. And if you continue doing that, you will be stressed and you will not get where you want to be. So let's look at it. David, we see that he's being very decisive. And as David chooses to be decisive, one of the things that we see that he does is he goes ahead and he is choosing to go after this lion and this bear. He's bold and he's direct and he's full of action-oriented behaviors. He sees the lion and the bear and he goes after it. But then there are those individuals that decide that what they will do is they're going to be more interactive. These are the people that focus on enthusiasm in their relationships. They're more inspirational and they're people-oriented in their approach. But then after that, you've got the cautious individual and the stabilizing individual. The cautious individual is a person that likes to emphasize precision and planning, and they're careful in their considerations, and they have a focus on thoroughness and on accuracy. But then there's the stabilizing. This is the group that most of us fall into because 80% of us in here find ourselves in this particular place. We're more reflective and supportive and caring and steady in our behaviors, and we maintain harmony and we demonstrate a commitment. And all these things are excellent and all these things are good. But the problem with all of these areas are if you don't choose to be decisive, if you don't choose to be bold, if you don't choose to be direct, if you don't choose to focus on that thing and run after it, then what happens is you fall short of the example of David. I want you to think about it.